Good afternoon and welcome to Locked On NBA Daily. On today's show, the Knicks are in a rut. Do they need to make a trade to turn their season around? Meanwhile, the Timberwolves have been the NBA's best team in 2026, and Jalen Brown says the Celtics aren't getting a fair shake.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On NBA, everybody. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. However you're tuning in on YouTube or on your podcast app, thanks for making us your first listen every day. I'm Wes Goldberg. Today, we're talking about what's wrong with the Knicks, and then we've got another round of Make It, Take It, because it's Thursday. We're doing it with the help of Locked On's local experts. I have two of the best with me, as always. From the Locked On Nuggets podcast, senior NBA writer for the Action Network, it's Matt Moore. Matt?
I am currently in the midst of trying to figure out 7,000 ways for the Denver Nuggets to be able to keep Peyton Watson under the current CBA. So that's like, I really do. I was told there would be no math in this job, and I'm very upset about it.
Fun with numbers. From the Locked On Bulls podcast, he's a Bears and Bulls creator for Bleacher Report. It's Haize.
I'm 2 days away from either having one of the greatest moments of my life or being pissed off all next week. So we'll see how that goes on Sunday for the Bears.
Who are they playing?
The Rams.
Go Bears. Los Angeles doesn't need anything else. All right, let's jump in. The Knicks lost to the Kings last night. Jalen Brunson turned his ankle in the first quarter, did not return. Good news for them is that it doesn't sound as serious, according to reporters after the game, as it looked on the broadcast when it happened. But overall, the Knicks have lost 6 of their last 8 games. They are still second in the Eastern Conference. They're 4 games back of the Pistons in first, but they are just a half game up on the Celtics. So, like I said, been a rough stretch. Lost 6 of the last 8. Matt, what do you make of this stretch for the Knicks, and why have they struggled?
So it comes after them winning the winning of the Cup, which is interesting. Like that makes for that fun narrative for them to kind of talk about. To be honest with you, I feel like that we saw this last year. I feel like we're just repeating last year. Brunson goes down last night, by the way, with an ankle injury, and then is in a walking boot afterwards. What do you want to bet that over the next month and a half, the defense gets a lot better and they pull off some surprising wins, and then he comes back and they surge into the playoff? Like, I feel like this is just last year all over again. Like, this is what happened. The big problem for them is just honestly that their defense is simply not good enough. It has not been good enough. But the offense has also tailed off. By the way, in the last 2 weeks, they are 27th in defensive rating, but the offense also hasn't been there either. I'm of the opinion they probably need to reconfigure this team on a larger level because of other reasons, but I don't think they should overreact just because they've had a few bad weeks since the Cup.
Yeah, they're in the Eastern Conference. They don't if they want to make a strategic trade, cool. I don't think they need to make some big dramatic trade here at the trade deadline. They just need to get something that for some of their players that could add some depth or something that they're lacking. But I wouldn't overreact to it. They'll be fine in the long run. Jalen Brunson is going to be absolutely fine. They'll be okay.
If you look at the numbers, the defense is the thing that sticks out, right? I mean, Matt had it. Like, they've been one of the worst defenses in the league over this last stretch, but usually, they haven't been an elite defense in general. They haven't been this bad, but they haven't been elite. It's been the offense that has carried them. And in the games where they're losing, Karl-Anthony Towns has really struggled, and he's sort of become the bellwether for them, right? Like, they lose against the Kings last night. He has 13 points on 14 shots. A couple nights ago in Phoenix, it's 15 points on 11 shots, where the efficiency just isn't there for him. Matt, you hinted at something maybe at a larger scale. Is this what you were looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I've always kind of held out that I don't think that they can put together a good enough defense with Brunson and Cat, and the data kind of backs it up. Like, the numbers all kind of say, like, hey, you can have a good defense with Brunson and 4 great wing defenders, or you can have a good defense with Cat with 3 great wing defenders, but you can't have it with Brunson and Cat together because you can't switch. You can't switch there, and you eventually wind up, even if you switch 1-4, they wind up putting you into dynamics that are going to involve those 2 guys, and it's just too easy for them to target. And even if it's not directly involving those 2 guys, you're able to then be like, oh, well, then your other guy, Cat fell asleep on the weak side, and he was able to cut in once the containment broke down, and all these types of problems. I think, though, like, when you really kind of look at it, they're 25th since January in effective field goal percentage. That doesn't sound like the Knicks. Like, some of this is just like they're just having a bad stretch. They just can't react to it. Like, they're just shooting badly right now. And I mean, they are playing badly because they've got other problems on the floor as well. It's not like they're doing anything well right now. I do just kind of wonder, though, if it might be time to go ahead and look at some options for what they want to do if they want to make a bigger move. But the problem is, like, they're going to hold out for Giannis, much like the Heat. Like, they're going to hold out for Giannis. And so everybody's in a holding pattern until the Giannis situation gets resolved.
Yeah, I mean, they need to get over that, though. Like, I get waiting for Giannis. He is the type of player that if he becomes available, you push all your chips in. But I don't think they'll make any big shifts this season. If they fall short again, they don't make the NBA Finals this year. That's where I think they'll look to trade Cat or somebody else and make a really big swing in the offseason.
The other thing, one more thing, Wes. So what's the thing that we know the Knicks do awesome that we talked about so much in the cup? Offensive rebounding, right? Like, no matter what, like, just Mitchell Robinson will go out there and just grab like 17 boards. So in the month of January, okay, we're 2 weeks in. In the month of January, and this has been a trend all season, they're allowing a higher number of offensive rebounds for the opponent than they are themselves. So this is a really key thing here, because most great offensive rebound teams are also dominant on the defensive rebounding edge. And we're seeing a switch up this year with a few of these teams where they're great at offensive rebounding, but they don't do the same on the defensive side. And so if you're just like, if you allow a lot of extra possessions and score, if you create a lot of offensive possessions and score on them, but you allow a lot of extra ones and the opponent scores on them, you just wind up back to even. And I think that's a big problem here, is the Knicks are not rebounding the way that we're used to them.
Josh Hart missing a lot of time. He's recently come back, maybe impacts that a little bit here. But to your point, Matt, they got to get back to the basics there, I guess. Over at Locked On Knicks, they're talking about trades, not as big as maybe a Karl-Anthony Towns trades, but they're thinking about maybe stacking some of these smaller contracts together and making a move.
The guys that are kind of out of the rotation for me, especially moving forward, looking at the playoffs, are Gershon Yabusele, are Pacome Dadier, are Jordan Clarkson, and Mohamed Diawara. I think he's still a little too raw to kind of rely on in those situations. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think they can go 10, to be honest with you, and have solid replacements if injuries occur. But at the same time, if you can make an upgrade at a position and fill a weakness as the same thing that we've been talking about all season, which is that point of attack defense, then that's something you're gonna have to go do. But I do think that they have 10 even at this time.
Whether or not this team has enough players for a playoff run is one thing. Whether or not they have enough to actually win a championship maybe is a different kind of question. If you're the Knicks going into the trade deadline, Haize, what kind of players do you look at? I mean, they mentioned point of attack defense. Maybe that's a spot. Matt was talking about the rebounding edge. Like, what are you looking at, Haize, when you look at this Knicks roster as something that could potentially put them over the top?
I think when you look at what you need for playoff success, you definitely I think the rebounding will come around, but I think you need that point of attack defender. I think when you look at the matchups that they're going to come up against, having a near elite point of attack defender, if you can get that, or even an above average point of attack defender, especially with how Jalen Brunson is going to be hunted in the playoffs, that's going to make a huge difference for them in the playoffs.
Where? So my problem is, they have OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges and Josh. They have a set they literally call Wingstop. You need another one. This is the problem with Brunson, is you need 6 guys on the floor. You need Brunson, 4 wing defenders, and a center. That's the problem here. And so there's no point of attack defender that's going to make a huge difference for them, because again, if you have that weak spot on the floor, you're still going to get attacked. And I'm not Brunson's awesome. He's a clutch time demon. He's their best player. I'm not saying that you need to move on from Jalen Brunson. I'm just saying this is an almost impossible problem to solve. But to that end, I mean, we're talking about margin moves here. You're not going to get anybody that's going to make this some sort of huge difference for you with Gershon Yabusele or Pacome. You're just not going to get them, right? Everyone around the league I've talked to believes that they're going to wind up with Jose Alvarado. That Jose Alvarado is going to wind up as their bench guy, and that makes a lot of sense, right? You create this kind of more doggish second unit. Clarkson doesn't play, and then it's some of the stagger guys who are all pretty gritty, and Jose Alvarado alongside Miles McBride, and that's the concoction here. But there's no solve for what they need that doesn't involve trading one of the big contracts. And if you're going to do that, the only guy you would really be looking to move, I think, is Karl-Anthony Towns.
When this team shoots really well, they tend to play really well, right? We've seen this in the playoffs before. Maybe ultimately that's the answer for them, but expectations have not changed in New York. If they have to make maybe a minor tweak here and there, maybe that's something that they can make. Meanwhile, they stay a half game up on the Boston Celtics. Jalen Brown says that the Celtics aren't getting a fair whistle. We talk about that. Plus, a new contender may have emerged in the Western Conference. Make it, take it is next.
I carry a lot of responsibility in my household. If something happened to me, there would be serious consequences. We have a mortgage, we got tuition, we got everyday bills. Those aren't going anywhere if something happens to me. And I know that's an overwhelming feeling, but I'm taking steps to protect my family by getting life insurance through Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast, easy, and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. And as of March 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. Ethos has 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 3,000 reviews. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/LocdownNBA. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get your free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/LocdownNBA. That's ethos.com/LocdownNBA. Ethos.com/LocdownNBA. Application times and rates may vary.
Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen. The best way to support the show is to subscribe on YouTube. We air Monday to Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, wherever you get your podcasts. It's Thursday, which means it's time for our favorite game around here. It's called Make It, Take It. You know how it works. 2 takes, 1 winner. We're going to start with the referees and the Boston Celtics. Jalen Brown was fined $35,000 earlier this week for criticizing the officiating after a game against the Spurs, and then explained to reporters that he believes that the Celtics aren't getting a fair whistle, saying, quote, "I think something had to be said. As a team, we get to the free throw line the least in the league. So just protecting our guys and myself, I think that we deserve a little bit more of respect," end quote. Matt, you won last week, so you got the ball. Does Jalen Brown have a point?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and tank my own chances here since I won last week by defending the Boston Celtics. He's got a point here. Look, they're not just last. Okay, they are last by a significant margin here. It's the gap between them and second least is the same as from second all the way up to 18th. Like, that's huge. So I was like looking around, I was like, well, what is it? And a lot of it is like it's the on-ball stuff, pick and roll especially. They have this pitiful lowest rank in pick and roll stuff, despite the fact that Jalen Brown's playing the way that he is here. I don't really have an explanation for this. I don't have like there's no dynamic I can see that would cause them to get this more. They're middle of the pack and drive. So if you want to go the Denny Avdia route, like they're middle of the pack and drives. They're not great at it. They're not terrible at it. I don't know that's, I understand the idea of like, well, they're just shooting threes, but they're not shooting as many threes as they did last year. And to me, this is less about actually the Boston Celtics as a team. I think it's more actually just specifically about Jalen Brown. It seems a lot like Jalen Brown is not getting calls as the leader of that offense the way that Jason Tatum did, because Tatum took several years when he had to learn it. The data kind of suggests that for whatever reason, the Boston Celtics are in fact getting a pretty bad whistle this season. That happens, but I think it's valid.
It's more than that. Does he have a point? Yes, but it's kind of self-inflicted. Not only, you said they're middle of the pack in drives. They're not middle of the pack. They're 18th. That's closer to the bottom than it is the middle. Sure. And then on top of that, they're one of only 2 teams that average only over 91 shot attempts per game, that over 42 of their shots are 3-pointers. It's them and the Cavs. And they all and the Cavs do average a little bit less drives than them, but they have Donovan Mitchell on that. So I think that he has a case to a degree, but at the same time, when you're a team that settles for as many threes as the Boston Celtics do, you don't drive to the lane as much as other elite offenses in the league do, you're not going to get as much of a whistle. It's just the reality of it. Now, should they be towards the absolute bottom of the league as far as free throw attempts? Probably not, but I don't see them as a team that's ever going to get a ton of free throw attempts as long as they're not driving to the basket, trying to push the issue. You have to do that. Once you do that consistently enough, you'll see yourself start getting the whistle a little bit more. But they have too many players as far as Derek White, Jalen Brown. Like, they have too many players that just will settle for shooting those threes and not attack when you need it the most. And what's going to happen at that point in time? Like, they play in the margins. This is one of the margins that they decide to play in. You want to be a high volume 3-point shooting team where almost half your shots are 3-pointers and you don't drive to the lane. You're not going to get as many free throw attempts as you probably deserve.
You can give him the point, Wes. I just want to like nerd follow up here. One thing on the drives thing is the NBA doesn't allow us to have per 100 possessions. You got to factor in the Boston plays not only slow, but at an absolutely glacial pace. They are maybe the slowest team in the league. So that drives per game mark is going to get impacted by that. But to your point, guess who's number 1 in 3-point rates? The Golden State Warriors, who are also 21st in free throw rate. So there is kind of correlation here between taking a lot of threes and a low free throw rate, which I think is right. But I also still think the Boston Celtics are probably creating a little bit more than what they're getting right now.
So if it is a Jalen Brown problem, I found this stat interesting. He is driving to the basket the third most in the league. He averages 17.9 drives per game. That's behind only our favorite player, Denny Avdia, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the foul merchant, isn't he? That's what everybody says. On his 18.2 drives per game, he is drawing 3.3 foul attempts per game. Jalen Brown on his 17.9 is averaging 3.2 free throw attempts. 0.1 of a difference. Jalen Brown, you're getting the same whistle as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't want to hear it. Haize, what's the word of the year? Petty?
Yeah. Petty.
I don't want to hear it, Jalen Brown. Point to Haize. It's always going to go to the person.
Wow. Who could have seen that one?
You know how it works around here, Matt. Next question. The Timberwolves have the NBA's best rating, best net rating, and have only lost one game since the start of the new year. Haize, you have the ball. Should the Wolves be considered a serious contender?
Yes, because we do this every single year where the Wolves get out to whatever start that they get out to. People start doubting if they are legitimate. And then they at some point in the season, they always turn it on and they find themselves in the Western Conference Finals the last 2 years. They should absolutely be taken as a legitimate contender in the West, because not only do they have a player that can be the best player on the court on any given night, that's Anthony Edwards. We've also seen what Julius Randle did in the playoffs last year. They're missing a point guard, which would help, take them a little bit further. But at some point, we just have to stop denying what we've seen with our eyes. This team, when it turns on towards the later part of the season, they're always there. They're always there. No matter how rough it is at points in the playoffs, they find a way to get to the Western Conference Finals. So until proven otherwise, I'm going to go off what we've seen the last 2 years, and that is the Wolves are going to be a serious contender in the West.
I'm not trying to be overly semantic here, Wes. Can you give me a definition of what you consider a serious contender to be?
Can win the championship.
Okay. So here's the problem. Okay. I agree with everything that Haize said, right? Okay. All the numbers, the underlying numbers, they're starting to win the games that they should. They're winning fewer. They're losing fewer of those dumb games that they do, but they're still going to probably return and do that at some point this season. We're catching them at a high point right now. They're good enough to be a serious contender. Okay. The reason I pay attention to these things like the 40-20 rule, you got to win 40 before 20 losses. 90% of NBA teams have done that. They're not going to do that. You have to be a top 3 seed. They're unlikely to do that. Only 2 teams in NBA history have won the title when you haven't been a top 3 seed. Think about that. In the entire NBA history, 2 teams. 2 teams have done it. And then the last one is like you got to be a certain threshold of point differential. They're there. They're good enough on that end. But this is kind of the problem. It's less about if you don't do those things, you're not good enough. And I think it's more that if you don't do those things, you do not put yourself in a position to where luck does not catch you. And this is the thing. The Wolves don't take care of business enough to where when we get to May, they do have to go on the road to start every series. They do have to go on the road for a game 7. They do have to face the toughest opponents. They don't put themselves in these positions for them to be able to go ahead and finish the job. They've made 2 Western Conference Finals in a row. Hey, it's absolutely true about that. I don't know how I can sit here and say they're not a title contender if I know they can make the Western Conference Finals. But we have seen these teams not only in the NBA but across sports that they're good enough to make that championship game, Final Four, can't go any further, can't get it done. That's how I feel about this Wolves team, where it's they're probably I have no doubt that they can make the Western Conference Finals, and then either there or in the finals they're going to get tripped up. They can't they can get within range, but that doesn't mean you can win it. And that's my thing with the Wolves, is they can't win it because they don't put themselves in a position to be able to win it.
They're a half game back of 3rd place in the West.
Agreeing with me through semantics should not get you the point, but you're going to get it to make the last matchup interesting. Fine. So it is what it is.
No, it's fine. No, make the sweep, Wes. We can still play it out.
Point to Haize. They're a half game back in third. You said they're not in third place. They can't reach third place. They're a half game back in San Antonio.
Well, here, Wes. Like, do you think that they are going to finish third in the West? Do you think they're going to finish?
I think they could. Yeah, okay. Why not?
Because we're catching them at the high point. Like, this is what we do when we're like, this team is playing great. Will they continue to play great until the end of time? No.
They could add a point guard. Maybe they're playing. They do play better as the season goes on over the years. I don't know. They're a half game back. I'm not going to rule it out. Why not? Okay. We're going to play it out. We have one more question here for Make It Take It, even though Haize is going to get it this week. We're going to talk about that. Plus, preview some of tonight's games. A big one between the Thunder and the Rockets. Are we going to get a repeat of that opening night classic? It's all coming up here on Locked On NBA.
I want this corrected when the Wolves don't win the title.
Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Wayfair. The new year's here. It's the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. If you're spending more time at home, you might as well love how it looks and feels. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. From bedding and mattresses to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair makes it easy to start the year fresh. Wayfair has everything you need from a full home refresh all in one place. Whether you're updating your living room, organizing your space, or upgrading your work from home setup, Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what works for your style and your budget. I love that I could find the pieces that match my style without spending a fortune. Shopping is easy, delivery is smooth, and everything arrives exactly as expected. It honestly made getting back into a routine this year feel a lot more manageable. So get organized, get refreshed, and get back on track this new year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's Wayfair, WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Thanks for making Locked On NBA Daily your first listen every day. The Locked On Podcast Network has a show for every team. Check out Locked On Knicks, Locked On Celtics, and Locked On Wolves for more on today's top stories. Last thing, this isn't going to be Make It Take It, but I do think it's interesting that today, January 15th, 11 more players have become trade eligible today across the league just because of the nature of their contracts. I'm going to tell you those 11 players. Santi Aldama, Josh Giddey, Quentin Grimes, Isaiah Jackson, Jonathan Kuminga, who recently demanded a trade, I guess, right before we started recording, Trey Mann, Sam Merrill, Davion Mitchell, Paul Reed, Naz Reid, and Ryan Rollins. Matt, which one of these players do you think could make the biggest impact if traded before the deadline?
We have to count this for Make It Take It just so I can get on the board. It's Davion Mitchell because he plays for the Miami Heat, but also because he's actually an impact player on both ends of the floor. Ryan Rollins, I think, is great. Naz Reid is should be the big name here. He should be the big name. But honestly, if you trade for Naz Reid, you're inheriting a bunch of problems with trying to balance out the defense and how to play him at 5 versus 4 and all these type of things. Every other guy on this list comes with complications. Quentin Grimes, you're probably going to have to pay him because that guy's pretty frustrated with how his deals went down last summer. Josh Giddey, no. Santi Aldama is really good, but I just don't think that he's that much of an impact player versus Davion Mitchell. I think is proven he's a two-way guy and he's a really great creator and he is a really well-rounded player. I also wish more teams would take a risk on Davion Mitchell.
Davion Mitchell was a good one there. Shout out to Matt for the Hail Mary on trying to get a point here late by mentioning the Miami Heat player. But I'm actually going to go Paul Reed here. And the reason why I'm going to go Paul Reed is that he's one of the few players that can fit into just about any system. His minutes have been cut down with that Detroit Pistons team with Jalen Duren and elite that he's made defensively. But when you look at the metrics for what Paul Reed is defensively, on top of that, he's one of the few players on this list. Davion Mitchell is the other one that you don't have to sign to a big contract anytime soon. He has another year left on his deal after this. His contract right now is only $5 million. It's an easy acquisition for just about any team that needs some big depth and a defensive big that can help them out defensively. And a number of teams can use that for the playoffs.
12.2 minutes per game. 12.2 minutes per game for Paul Reed. He's good. He's fun. He's fun. Fun guy. 12.2 minutes per game. Come
on. Point to Haize there too. It's Paul Reed. It's a sweep. No, I gotta buck some trends here. It can't just be go pro Miami Heat, get the point. We can't just say I can't just put the first two.
Well, hang on. Trash the Celtics, automatic point.
No, that's the only one that's gonna hold. That's the one that's gonna hold. You tanked yourself as soon as you agreed with Jalen Brown at the beginning. You knew what you were doing. You even called it out. Right. Let's look ahead to some of tonight's games. Celtics at Heat. Celtics have lost 2 in a row, but they are getting Jalen Brown back tonight from his official temper tantrum there. But the Heat got a big win against the Suns on Tuesday. They're going to get the Celtics at home. Matt, who do you like here? Be careful.
I love the Boston Celtics here. No more points. I don't give a damn. If I'm going to get screwed, I'm going all the way in. So the Boston Celtics, look, the Celtics, I think they're a little inconsistent, but they've been like, they really are. I've got them power rating and still is like the number one team in the Eastern Conference. I think they have the best chance of making the finals. And that's before we add in Tatum. I actually think they'll probably struggle when Tatum gets back. And there's starting to be some rumblings that maybe there's some disconnect over whether or not Tatum should come back this season, with Tatum's side wanting to come back. I think Tatum wants to come back. I'm not sure if the Boston Celtics are like, you should chill out, it's okay. But look, this Heat team has been too inconsistent. They had that big lead on the Suns and allowed the big comeback. They had to sneak out. I just can't really trust Miami a lot right now until I know what's going on with them. Plus, all the trade stuff makes guys, I think, nervous. So I'm going to go with the Boston Celtics here.
I'll go to Miami here, not only because I don't need points, but because it's the first game back from Jalen Brown. Now, all jokes aside, I do think that, if he starts off slow or something like that, the Miami Heat are good enough to where they can take advantage of that. Plus, they're at home, so I'll give the edge to the Miami Heat for that.
The pace battle is going to be really interesting here between how fast the Heat play and how slow Boston does. I kind of lean always towards the team that's able to dictate pace slower in Boston, but I have a half-word bias in that. It will be kind of interesting. Plus, like Wes, you really need some good games from Tyler Hero to kind of quiet that talk down there.
Hero and Norm Powell both expected to play. Unfortunately for the Miami, Jaime Jaquez Jr. and Davion Mitchell might not play in tonight's game, which could obviously impact things there, especially if the Celtics do indeed get Jalen Brown back, which it looks like he will.
I want to point when the Celtics win.
Thunder at Rockets. OKC conquered their Spurs demon earlier this week, and now they're going to face the Houston Rockets on the road. It's their first meeting since that instant classic that we all remember on opening night. Haize, who do you like in this one?
Man, it's hard to bet against the OKC Thunder. The Rockets were struggling before, they got a win there. So I'll say the OKC Thunder here. I think they're just going to be prepared. I think they're going to be riding high off getting over that hump, and the way that they played, the aggression that they played with against that Spurs team. I think that chip stays on their shoulder. I think they get the win tonight.
Sometimes losing streaks are just random.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes losing streaks are caused by friction, and sometimes losing streaks create friction. I think something's going on with Houston. This team is not connected. That Kings game was a red flag game. That's like the monitor lights up with a warning sign when you have that kind of performance versus Sacramento after you're on a losing streak. So I have some concerns about Houston, and you don't want to do that when you're facing OKC. I think OKC is probably gonna not roll. It'll be like between a 5 and 9 point win tonight for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
One note, Isaiah Hartenstein ruled out for the Thunder. Lou Dort is questionable as of the latest injury report. Hartenstein was a team best +9 in that opening night win for the Oklahoma City Thunder. So obviously not having him will hurt, but I agree with you guys. I think the Thunder end up getting the win here. Last one that we want to talk about, Bucks at Spurs. Giannis versus Victor Wembanyama. Both teams relatively healthy going into this one. The Spurs, however, are 7.5 point favorites. Matt, who do you like in this one?
I mean, who likes the Bucks right now? Like who is like running to be like, ooh, the Bucks? Like we're gonna probably see some pregame commentary. We'll see what happens. But man, this Bucks team, I just want to say, if they had the combination of hiring Adrian Griffin, which was a disaster brought on by wanting to do what Giannis wanted, and then hiring Doc Rivers midseason instead of waiting and seeing who you could get, you took a bad situation, a terrible situation, and you made it so much worse. Like, this team has checked out on Doc, and that's pretty evident. Doc's just getting paychecks. It is rotten with Milwaukee, so I gotta take Spurs here. I mean, I'm calling favorite sweep, but I have no confidence in Milwaukee right now.
Yeah, Spurs. By the way, I wouldn't bet on Milwaukee to save my life, my worst enemy's life. So,
you know what that means. The Bucks will probably win tonight. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA Daily wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. Thanks to Matt and Haize for their expertise every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network your first listen. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA Daily.